In today's episode, I make ChatGPT file my expenses like magic. So I upload an invoice to my platform, ChatGPT reads all the data nice and clean, and a new expense entry is created in my account. This has been a huge pain for me in the past, so I thought I could get ChatGPT to work for us. For those who are new, my name is Sergio Leis, and every Sunday I share stories on my solopreneur journey. This is week 18 and I have 1,000 euros left in savings. I'm starting to make a bit of money from my digital product, but I'm still not ready to scale. You can subscribe or join my newsletter down below to follow the journey. Alright, so I'm starting to change the way I come up with ideas for my business, and I'll focus on the actual pains I have and then build solutions for these pains. Last week I had to organize my business expenses, and to be honest, I had to catch up with quite a few months. Filing them one by one was such a pain in the ass. Creating the new contact, filling the invoice items, setting the correct tax. So I thought maybe use ChatGPT to do this. Turns out in ChatGPT 4.0 we can attach a file and ask any questions. So I did a quick test and the reply was actually pretty good, and it's way better than conventional OCR scanning because ChatGPT can understand the context of the invoice, like the language, the numbers, the structure, because every invoice is very different to each other. At this point I was getting the dopamine hit in my brain, like whoa, I could do something pretty cool with this in my platform. So I went straight into OpenAI to understand how to integrate with them. You can use ChatGPT as a normal user directly in the chat, or you can connect ChatGPT with your platform through OpenAI. So essentially I want my platform to do the same thing as I did with the chat. Upload an image of an invoice and ask specific questions to that invoice. So the theory was clear, but now I had to actually make this work. I haven't integrated AI before, so this one's a big one for me. I actually paid ChatGPT Plus to help me integrate ChatGPT in my platform, which is a bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, I have to say OpenAI's documentation is probably the most friendly I've seen, in plain English and very easy to understand. We have different API calls depending on what we need from ChatGPT. If we want a text reply, we use the text generation API. If we want an image generated from a prompt, then we use the image generation API. In my case, I want to ask a question from an image I provide, so I use the vision API. This is like giving ChatGPT eyes, which is a bit scary to be honest. It's crazy how fast AI is moving. Great, so now I had to set up the API call inside my platform. I used Bubble to build my digital product, and here I have an API connected to integrate with external platforms, in this case with OpenAI. API integrations are pretty scary, but in the end it's just a way to connect different platforms between them. So I set up the API call following all the steps in OpenAI's documentation and separately asking ChatGPT a ton of questions on how to do this, because I have no idea how to code, but I do understand the logic of what I want to build. Great, so I was ready to initialize the call. This is like manually activating it to test that everything's working fine, and surprise surprise, I got an error message. If there's a comma in the wrong place or any parameter missing, the API won't be activated. After a trillion error messages, I got it to work. There's also a pretty cool thing with Bubble for no-code developers, where you just copy the cool code in the documentation, paste it in Bubble, and they automatically set it up for you. Cool, so the logic is simple. I provide OpenAI with an image URL. I ask specific questions about this image, like what's the supplier name, what's the invoice number, and so on, and I get a reply with these values. This was already a huge win for me. Now I have to fine-tune the prompt and figure out how to save this data inside my database. So my database inside Bubble is very similar to an Excel spreadsheet with different rows and with different columns. So at this point I had to figure out how to digest ChatGPT's replies into my database, so each value goes in the correct column. I improved the prompt to include all the fields we need from the invoice. There's like 20 fields, which is quite a lot. And then I also wrote specific instructions for each field, so ChatGPT is more precise in the reply. Here's an example. When asking for the contact name, ChatGPT was sometimes replying with my actual company name. So I specified in the prompt contact name, not digital crafters, this is my company's name. Little fine tuning on every field so I can get the data exactly as I need it. At this point I was pretty impressed with AI, with how you can just change one word in the prompt and you get the reply you need. And to finish with the prompt, I had to specify the exact format I needed this reply in, because I don't want ChatGPT to reply something like, here's the data you need, blah blah blah. I don't need all that context, I just need the reply. I need the reply to be in a specific format so I can digest it in my database. So with this I'm getting exactly the reply I need for each expense. I'm ready to jump into the design tab, which is the front end the user will be seeing. I already had a table for people to see their expenses, so I add a button to upload an expense invoice. Then I set up the workflow to send this invoice to OpenAI, asking the prompt exactly as I defined it. I also set up this loading animation, which is like, whoa, we're doing magic with your expense, because it does take a few seconds to generate. Once OpenAI replies, I create a new expense entry with all the correct values, with the contact details, invoice items, taxes, discounts, everything. I used this myself to catch up with 170 expenses, and along the way fine-tuning my prompt whenever ChatGPT was getting something wrong. So I think I'm getting pretty close to 100% success rate. Hopefully we don't have to file any more expenses manually. And yeah, also the cost of OpenAI as a founder is around 1 or 2 cents per API call. So in my case, 1 or 2 cents per expense. If it was like €1 per expense, it wouldn't be scalable. So it makes so much sense to bring this as part of my value proposition. Also, it's mind-blowing for me to get this working in 1 week. I'm really happy with the solution. AI already solves a ton of things on its own, but there's a huge opportunity to supercharge our digital products with it. Because in my case, you can't store your expenses in ChatGPT, neither generate invoices or have a dashboard for your business. So it complements great, supercharging my platform features. If you want to join us, by the way, you can use the code SERGIOLEIS for €30 discount. I also have many courses where I show how to build this step by step, so you can also use ChatGPT in your product. Here's another video on month 3 starting a solopreneur business. I feel I'm starting to get things in place. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.